It is 4 o'clock and we enter into the city council workshop. And do we have any public comments?
No, sir, no one has signed up.
Okay. Information and discussion. Moving to that, or are we going to go to executive session for that?
Well, we'll have information discussions. We'll have a brief presentation from Chief Holt. Chief Holt of the Centerpoint Volunteer Fire Department is with us tonight. He'll provide a more extensive presentation in regards to the petition that he has been helping facilitate for the creation of an emergency service district within the southeast portion of Kerr County.
Right.
So I'd like to go ahead and have Chief Holt present to the City Council. Is that right there, sir?
Chief Holt, I'd like to say, people brag on you and they think you're doing a good job.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Have a good team behind me.
Yeah.
So basically, what we're looking at is we're trying to establish an ESD in our jurisdiction to help further fund our department. Since we are on the decline of donations over the past few years, I'm trying to look into the future, what's to come in our department. We have a lot of new subdivisions and stuff that are on the board about coming in. We have enough personnel, but we need more resources. We need, to add on to our station and to add more trucks. The truck that y'all had donated to us has been a blessing. We use that thing a lot. But, with the added subdivisions and stuff, and the more traffic we're going to have, we're trying to pretty much establish a CSD so we have enough funding to take care of our area. So, with that being said, we have the map that we have, and the reason why I'm here is we have put in a petition with the Kerr County, which it's been approved, but I'm here before y'all because we have your ETJ in the My Fire District, which is not overlapping any of the city services. It's just basically harden our lines that what we have. So that's where it's at. It's basically just for fire protection only. Eric Maloney in the city of Kerrville does a wonderful job with ambulance services and stuff in our jurisdiction. So, like I said, it's just for fire protection only. So.
Okay, all right.
So you're looking at needing, through the funding, the first thing you would do is additional trucks.
Yes, ma'am. Additional trucks and adding on to our station to house those vehicles.
Okay.
So
I usually meet with EA before, and so I apologize I haven't. I have a few questions. Just like with the ETJ, we don't annex very often, and usually it's voluntary. If we do annex, we're creating a special taxing jurisdiction. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So if we do annex, does that remove them from that taxing jurisdiction?
Yes,
When
ma'am.
they become part of the city?
That's correct, and it depends on what piece you're talking about, right? So there's two instances, right? So if the city were to expand into the ETJ area voluntarily, as you mentioned before, given the elements that are allowed for within state law,
Yep.
the city's property tax would apply within that area.
Yes.
And more than likely, a sales tax would apply in
Yes.
that area, as it's currently prescribed. ESDs do have the ability to both assess a property tax and be a property tax jurisdiction. They also have the ability, and I don't believe this is being proposed at this time,
No, sir.
but they also do have the ability to overlay a sales tax ability as well. And so that does present some issues for the city going forward. If that boundary were to expand, that sales tax boundary would be set. And so the city absolutely could de-annex the ESD in areas of expansion, but that sales tax boundary, that sales tax would
Stays.
continue to go to the ESD, would not be available for the city. So that is something to be cognizant about as you guys move forward.
So that's a forever deal, and there's nothing that peels that off?
That's correct. That's correct. And
So
it
have
has-
there been discussions about where the boundary lines are going to be? I mean, are we going to get,
So we do have a current, Chief Holter provided, within the petition element, you provided a map that was presented by, or produced by a surveyor.
Yes,
That's been overlaid for you guys on this handout that you have here. Essentially, the entirety of the yellow area is the current provision of service by Centerpoint Volunteer Fire Department. And I believe that's also the proposed emergency service district boundary.
Yes, sir.
As you can see, that abuts the area that's denoted in a kind of a thick black line. That's the current city limit line. And then.
Where's the current city limit line?
Yeah,
It's right around the airport. You'll see kind of a thick black line. It overlaps that thick yellow line in the area where the two boundaries would be basically right next to each other.
I'm still not seeing it. Show me.
Yeah, I think it's hard to see because of how the map is with the roads or other property lines.
You can see it most clearly kind of north of the airport
Well,
area,
it's
sort of
black.
wrapping around the Peterson
Yeah,
Farm Road property.
okay.
Yeah.
Kind of a
Okay.
big black line there.
Okay,
In that
because see,
area
mine doesn't
right now,
have.
It's basically around
Why
the
does mine
airport.
not have that? Where is it?
oh,
That line.
Oh,
That's not thick. Sorry.
It's thicker than the others. You can see in the green line, that is the existing 1 mile
I can see the
ETJ
green. Okay.
that extends 1 mile past, that green line extends 1 mile past the existing city limits. That is the extraterritorial jurisdiction as it currently stands. You can see the red line that is
Yes.
1 mile outside of that. That is not a proposed, but when the city moves toward 25,000, it's found to be in 25,000 population, that 2 mile ETJ will be in existence. So just to give you guys some semblance
Yeah.
of where that goes within that general vicinity. You can see the bubble out areas are basically just the bubble outs along Highway 27. So you can see a little bit more of a zoomed in area of where the vacant properties are along Highway 27, which are more than likely the most probable properties that would be voluntarily annexed in the future.
Right.
Should they develop and want to be annexed into the city.
Right, and on top of that, those are heavily industrial areas.
Correct. Certainly around the southern portion of the airport, certainly we've seen a lot of industrial development with James Avery,
Right.
Fox Tank,
Yep.
Kildare Mountain Manufacturing. And I certainly think, given the focus of the Kerrville Economic Development Corporation and the city's economic development plans, that we would continue per Kerrville 2050 to see commercial and industrial growth, heavy commercial and industrial growth within that corridor.
Yeah.
That would very much want to annex into the city limits for utility provision.
so right now your petition does not include the area that's in black on here,
I
around the
I
airport.
haven't seen that.
It doesn't look like it.
The area in black is within the city limits. So
Oh,
Yeah, they
it
can't-
has nothing to
There's
do
no
with
area-
his petition.
That's correct.
Ah,
There's no
okay.
area within the petition that it would overlap with the existing city.
Okay, okay.
But he's looking at in everything that's within the yellow
Yeah.
line
Yes, ma'am.
being,
But you already service
Yes, ma'am.
all of that, don't
For
you?
fire protection,
Right,
yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
And I'm not trying to be, I'm certainly want to support and fund this initiative. I just, if the implication of losing property taxes for something that may, I don't know, do you see that as a significant issue for us to consider?
Would it be the property tax or sales
I
tax?
mean, did I say property, I meant sales tax?
Okay.
Yeah, it really could be either one, right? So,
Okay.
from the sales tax in the future, certainly, I think it is a concern. There's also a provision within existing state law that should the city request for an area to be de-annexed and essentially removed out of that property tax, the city would be responsible for paying any debts that were incurred of the ESD that were being paid for via their property tax. So again, not a huge
Ooh.
concern in a lot of those vacant areas, but in the future, should development occur. And that's one of the, we've had candid conversation with Chief Holt about that.
Yeah.
And he's aware of some of the staff concerns, at least, about growth in that area.
Absolutely.
And also just the provision of city services in the future for those areas.
Right, and
So as far as who's responsible for what when it comes to fires,
So anything in yellow, we're responsible for. Anything that's in this area next to the airport and all the areas that are not in yellow is the city of Kerrville.
Yeah, and Chief, you may want to speak a little bit to mutual aid and how it works in that area, because certainly we have a great working relationship with Center Point
Absolutely.
Volunteer Fire Department.
Yeah, so currently, the area that he's talking about that comes up to the city limits is his first response for fire in that entire area. So we are second in that we would provide services under the county contract, but that is not our fire response area, so they are primary for that entire area. So we do work together for the automatic aid from the airport. So we do have that agreement that we work together for that. You'll remember we did that back in 2009 for that one, that we both respond if there's an issue out there. at the airport and those areas adjacent to it. But that is his CenterPoint's current area. So it does not impact us as far as a fire response goes for that. So if it does change, if it does demarcate some of the areas a little differently, then that would be our responsibility, the city of Kerrville's responsibility to respond to that area for that. So, and nothing talking about mutual aid, but that would be our responsibility as primary.
So just a little bit of the dynamic. So again, the reason we're here tonight, I believe, is because ultimately, because this service district is within the city's ETJ, by state law, Chief Holt has to bring forward this item to the council to basically receive permission to create an ESD within the ETJ. That has to be acted upon within 60 days of the original petition, which was May 17th. So that provides for about July 16th or 15th, I believe. And so we wanted to provide at least a workshop opportunity for you guys to be able to look at these maps, ask questions to Chief Holt, just get a little bit more educated on the issue. We do have it on your agenda tonight. We also, this is an item that's absolutely available for you to talk about in executive session, if you choose to do so. So you have options, but that kind of gives you a little bit of idea of kind of the timeline going forward, assuming that, permissions are granted. Ultimately, I believe Chief Holt is looking at putting in this, you've got an August date to get it on the ballot that then goes to the voters in that area, in that, only the residents of that emergency service district in November.
Yeah.
So my deadline is August the 16th.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
So what happens? We say no,
I can't go.
and you can't move ahead.
They have
So
to take ETJ.
basically, if y'all say no,
Yeah.
I have to get it resurveyed and have your ETJ taken out of my jurisdiction. And not currently, but I was speaking with Chief Maloney here, probably within 8 to 10 years, we would no longer be the CenterPoint Volunteer Fire Department. We would end up being an ESD fire department because of, once we start this, most likely if the donations come in, if they start declining and we can't basically, maintain what we have, we'd have to use ESD money fully. Worst case scenario, if we cut it out, the city of Kerrville will be responsible for fire protection in that area that the ESD doesn't cover. That's worst case scenario. So,
Gosh.
Yeah, so since we don't do mandatory annexation, how does that relate to what Chief is talking about them essentially annexing the ETJ?
Yeah, so, I want to be careful we're using the right terms here. So, the boundaries set by the ESD, they don't really have annexation ability going forward. Those are set by the initial vote that's taken. And so that's what is proposed right now within that kind of shaded out yellow area. In the future, the city has the ability to basically de-annex the ESD from the boundary and kind of move that boundary as the city would expand voluntarily through voluntary annexations. However, again, the city would be responsible for paying a pro rata share of any debt that had been incurred by the ESD.
If you do this, if you go this route, that then takes everything off. That takes off any support they get through the property or sales tax.
Only on the properties that would be de-annexed out of there. Correct.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes.
and see, what I was looking at is, our current budget for the year is about 93,000.
Ooh.
So with the current percentage that we've put up for the ESD, we're basically looking at around 180 to 200,000 more a year. The loanability on that is a lot better than my contract that I have with the Kerr County. So that's what our biggest way over was,
Yeah.
is they would give us more loanability to get more equipment to add on to things because of that revenue that's steadily coming in.
Right. No, and
So-
I certainly don't want you to think I'm not supportive of the idea. I just want to make sure what the implications might be long-term for the city. But I certainly want you guys to be funded and operational and have what you need at the same time. So
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to ask the questions.
Chief, I know one of the things that we talked about in our discussion was the concern that there are some residential properties, which certainly the city isn't looking to annex and won't be looking to annex in the future, just given the complexities of that. You know, those, I think, were, obviously had tax value for the ESD. You know, one of the things we've talked about is I think the concern may be about vacant properties that could develop commercially in the future.
Yes,
but
that's
don't
exactly
seem to
right.
have as much tax implication for the
That's
ESD,
correct.
at least currently.
Correct.
One of the
Yeah.
things we talked about was the possibility of amending that boundary really to capture some of those vacant properties along Highway
Yes.
27.
Exactly.
Yes.
Versus some of those ones that present more of a present value for the ESD.
Yes,
Yes, and-
exactly.
And
Yeah.
in my opinion, I think that would be a good move on y'all's part. Looking after our conversations that we have, we can definitely go back and me and you can sit down and go over the map that I proposed and take out some of those vacant areas because vacant areas right now doesn't mean a whole lot for the ESD. It would mean more to y'all
Right.
later on, and I completely understand that.
Okay.
Right.
You know, I want what's best for, you know, the district that I serve and my fire department and my citizens, but I also want what's best for y'all also.
Thank
We have a great
Yeah, all the
relationship with
growth
y'all
is happening east, so, you know, if we could protect, I don't know if it, you know,
Commercial
what it,
corridor
yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
commercial development there out by the airport, then, you know, I mean,
That would make me feel a lot
completely
better.
understand the need for more funding. I mean, I know that you guys lost funding from the county and stuff last year, and,
It was proposed for us too, but they went ahead and funded us. We got $24,400 from the
Okay.
county, which my insurance is $21,000.
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
everything else that we get is either, you know, hard work through grants or, I mean, the citizens that we serve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they do very well for us.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I appreciate your understanding of our need with some of this commercial vacant area.
Yes, ma'am.
Potential commercial.
yes, ma'am.
So
Like I
thank you
said,
for that.
I really want what's the best for us and what's best for y'all.
yeah.
Thank you.
So, and I completely understand.
Thank you.
So how hard is it to redraw the boundaries just a little bit?
So I spoke with Bob Reeves when I figured that this might come up, and that shouldn't be an issue. I'll just have to get it resurveyed, and then it won't mess with anything I've already accomplished with the
Okay.
county.
That's good.
Okay.
It'll just be kind of like an amendment on the
Okay.
map.
Yeah.
So as long as it didn't get,
Bigger.
you know, as long as the area that we're trying to take out is not, you know, half of it or a lot of it, then it shouldn't. If it's just a few properties and down 27 where that good commercial area is,
Right.
I don't see it being a problem.
Okay.
So,
Okay, good.
Here's a question, and you've already heard this, but, you know, Kerrville really does want to and does work with Centerpoint and Ingram Hunt and other communities, and because we're partners in this small county.
absolutely.
But at the same time, we got the responsibility of protecting the city. If we proceed with this, there are like 17 volunteer fire departments in the county, I think, something like that.
There's 9.
9?
There was 10, but we absorbed one of them due to lack of funding.
Yeah.
So instead of
Okay.
losing all their stuff, we absorbed them.
Okay, so 9. How many others would come to us asking for this kind of arrangement?
So the only other one would be Terra Linda. I don't, and possibly Turtle Creek, but
Turtle.
Terra Linda doesn't have the area to support an ESD. Turtle Creek Volunteer Fire Department is another one that's on your ETJ side. They don't have basically the area to support an ESD. So that's the only basically 2, which Terra Linda is on the outside of the county. So that would be,
Must be.
it'd be really hard for them. But the only other one would be Turtle Creek, and I've talked to their chief, and they don't seem like they're gonna start that. So anybody else, you don't have any ETJ or any city limits or anything in their jurisdiction, so it's not an issue. It's just the ones that are right here around you. So like Hunt and Mountain Home and Castle Lake, all those departments are just in the county. So they could do it, but it wouldn't affect Kerrville at
Right,
all.
right.
Okay.
In
Chief?
the county contract, we provide firefighting services for kind of the Kerrville South and the greater Kerrville area. The only area that another volunteer fire department butts up against the city limits is Centerpoint. So we provide the other services under the contract with the county.
So we provide primary fire service for Kerrville South.
Kerrville South and a greater, so it's kind of a bit of a C shape, I guess you could say, around going to the west and then up to the north.
I've never asked, how do we collect for those services when they're not paying in?
It's
Sorry,
part-
this is a little,
It's
just,
part of that interlocal funding agreement.
it's a funding
Essentially,
agreement. Yeah, okay, all right.
All right.
I'll get to see next year.
So
Okay.
again, just kind of a reminder on the timelines. So we do have an opportunity, if it's the council's desire, for staff to work with Chief Holt on possibly amending those boundaries per what your suggestions are today, to kind of look at some of those vacant properties. And then we can bring that back to you all at the July 13th meeting. That's still within that 60-day timeframe for y'all to take further action at that time.
I will say that this is an issue that is a little hard to understand. And it's going to be interesting how it appears in the paper, and how it's understood. And we may need to take some time to think about that.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah, and ultimately, it'll be the voters at the end of the day.
Correct.
After we-
We could go through all this and they say no.
But that's important to the
But
whole
you wouldn't
process to be
anticipate
understood.
that.
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But it is difficult to sort it all out. And,
but I see
Very
what you're
much so.
saying, Mayor, and you're right.
Yeah.
Well, will we have a summary or give kind of like an update at our regular meeting since it's on the agenda? So anybody who's possibly here at the meeting can also be aware of
Is it on our meeting agenda?
it.
Possible action?
Right.
I'll give a brief recap of
Okay.
the workshop and essentially the direction that was provided by council, and that it will be at an upcoming agenda. If
Okay.
That's the general consensus of what
Yes.
council would like us to move forward on.
That'd be good.
Thank you for your service.
Yes,
Go ahead.
thank you
Yes.
very
Thank
much.
you, Chief.
And thank
Okay.
you for your foresight and looking ahead to making things work for everybody.
Yes, ma'am. Give me this back.
Good. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and make this motion and see if we've got a second to go into executive session under 551.072, 551.071, 551.087. Does that cover it, Mr. Hayes?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Second.
We got a second from Mr. Garcia. All in favor of that motion, if you'll let it be known by the raised hand. Okay, and it passes. Will we go upstairs?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we are adjourned for this part of the workshop and into the executive session. At 5:49, the council is back in session, and we have one item to report out of executive session. Can I hear a motion on that?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we move to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement to allow the city to conduct its due diligence on property which may meet the city's needs for a public safety facility.
All right. Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Oh, okay. Saying they're not hearing us.
Gonna close the door,
I'll
probably.
tell you what, just to make sure, would you repeat that
I will.
motion?
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Barely. All right,
Like this.
I move that we authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement to allow the city to conduct its due diligence on property which may meet the city's needs for a public safety facility.
all right, and we've got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, if you'd let it be known by the raised hands. All right, and the motion passes. At 5:50, we're adjourned from the executive session. We're going to take a break and be back here at 6 for the council meeting.